Embiid is back on the floor. Is he prepared to give it a go? Can he lift the Sixers to a win they desperately need? It's going to be quite a night on ESPN, starting right now.
You have to have the right kind of guys that are about winning.
This is all I play for. I want to say we turn it on in the playoffs, but it's definitely a different energy.
We got guys that can step up at any occasion.
Just an exquisite pass.
We just did what we were supposed to do at home.
Bring that defense on the road, try to get out of there with 2.
We're still a confident group, and we're going to go home and do what we're supposed to do.
We got to hit first, put them on their heels.
Look at the score!
I've been watching it since I was 7 or 8 or 2 years old.
Relax.
It's just the will to win.
It's not over yet. We're going to go back home. We're going to believe again.
Welcome to NBA Countdown, presented by Mountain Dew.
From the Seaport District and brought to you by Chase, Stephen A., Jalen, and Wilbon are revved up and ready to go. I'm Mike Greenberg. This, of course, is Adrian Wojnarowski, and he's the man with all the news. There's one overwhelming story. Our opening tip is Joel Embiid. We're a half hour from the opening tip. Woj, what do we know?
Yeah, the expectation right now, Greeny, is that Joel Embiid will make his return for Game 3 tonight against Miami. He's on the floor as we speak, loosening up. Making shots all over the court. He looked good in shoot-around today. He cleared concussion protocol. That was really the big step for him. And now he'll play with that orbital fracture in his face. He's got a specially designed mask to try to protect, from impact. Certainly, it's going to be physical. This is a physical Miami team. But the expectation is that any minute, once Joel Embiid leaves the warm-ups on the court, he's going to tell Philly that he's a go, and he's going to try to help save this Sixers season tonight.
One can only imagine what that scene is going to be like. We're looking forward to bringing it to you. And look, if you ask the question, what does he mean to that team? The simple answer is everything. Let me show you the numbers. When the Sixers have him on the floor during these playoffs, they've outscored their opponents by over 12 points per 100 possessions. It's been basically the exact opposite when he is off the floor. So with the season on the line, Stephen A. Smith, he is going to give it a go. What exactly in your mind does he mean for this team and for this series?
He means everything. There's no question about it. Without him, there is no season worth talking about involving the Philadelphia 76ers. With him, they are a championship contender. Without him, they'd be struggling to make the first round of the playoffs. That's how significant he is. He is a superstar. He's somebody that's averaged 24 and 11 in 40 career playoff games. This past series against the Toronto Raptors, he had at least 3 games where he had a 30-point double-double. All right? This is what he brings to the table. Outside, inside, post game, outside game. Too big, too strong, too gifted for any big man in the game to really, really deal with this side of Nikola Jokic. So the way I look at it, the bottom line is he's coming back because he recognizes he is their lone hope for the Philadelphia 76ers to win this series, and he knows they can't do it down 0-3. Their season is on the line, and that's why he's here tonight.
Oh, by the way, did we mention he also has a torn ligament in his thumb, which he's been dealing with for a while. But Michael Wilbon, when we were together on SportsCenter about a half hour ago, you brought up the inspirational piece of this. I'm thinking back. It was May 6th of 1970, or today's May 6th. May 8th of 1970, Willis Reed walked out onto a court from Madison Square Garden and lifted the Knicks despite the fact that he only scored 4 points. We'll see what Joel Embiid, if he can have a similar impact on the Sixers tonight.
Well, he's got to lift them, Greeny. This is the definition of franchise player. I mean, people often overstate that now. They say, oh, so-and-so's going to be a franchise player for 10 years. No, he's not. Joel Embiid's a franchise player. He is that already. But to cement himself in that way, he, like everybody else that's great, needs playoff wins, playoff series wins. But before we get to the series, we got to just get through tonight. It's interesting you mentioned Willis Reed, because on today with my dear friend and co-host Tony Kornheiser, who's a New Yorker, was a Knicks fan, was at that game. He invoked the name Willis Reed. I couldn't believe he went there, knowing how near and dear that is to his heart. And so down the road a little bit on I-95 in Philly, Embiid is sort of in that role. At least he starts off. He lifts the building. He lifts his teammates. He lifts the town, the spirits of all of it, particularly if they can be in a game and get some sort of hold of that game for the first time in this series. They barely led in the series so far. They need to get off to a decent start tonight, and you figure Embiid's going to be at the center of it.
I want to just temper expectations. Stephen A., they're not a championship contending team with Embiid. They're going to lose this series if he would have played every game. I believe if he would have started the series, they would have lost in 6. Without him, they might lose in 4 or 5. The next thing about Willis Reed, the legend, you're right, Greeny, he did score 4. But you know that means James Harden would have to be Clyde Frazier
Right.
tonight.
Yeah.
Who had the major big game. And I don't know if he's on the same level as Clyde Frazier. And lastly, what does this presence mean? An opportunity, Stephen A., for us to extend this series. Because if he does not play, each possession truly matters because you don't have your MVP level player to bail you out when things get tough.
Several points to make with all of you gentlemen on this show. Number one, when you bring up the fact that they're not a contender, I think with Embiid, this would have gone 7 games. As far as I'm concerned, 7 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals, that makes you a contender. That's number one. Number two, the blasphemy, Mike Greenberg, for bringing up Willis Reed. Willis Reed came out in the finals. This is the second round of the playoffs. Pump the brakes unless you did it on purpose just to remind me about the futility with the New York Knicks that has spanned fates. Okay, I don't appreciate that. And Wilbon jumping all in there with that big smile on his face, just looking to dig at me. I get it. I understand it. Last but not least, I think this is the most important point to be made. Joel Embiid is also sending the message. I am no Ben Simmons. I mean, after all, if this were Ben Simmons, it might be an excuse to miss the 2022-23 season. Okay? That's what might have happened if this were Ben Simmons. But Joel Embiid said, look, my services are needed. A championship is on the line. Our playoff aspirations are on the line. This is my opportunity to do something. I applaud him for even trying. That's what this is about, baby.
We will see what he's able to go out there and do.
By the way, quick point to Jalen's, a footnote to Jalen's point. Didn't Clyde have 37 that night? I think Clyde had 37 points in that game.
Clyde, yeah.
Which totally gets
Willis Reed hit 2
Stephen
shots. And those are the only things he
I
did.
said Anthony Kornheiser, older than you and a Knick fanatic longer than you. He
But you're rubbing it
Willis
in.
Reed. Not the Chicagoan, but a true dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker. So let's just see what kind of inspiration that Joel Embiid provides tonight.
If we got sideways on this for the first time, it was actually my fault. Let's go on as we go. Bam Adebayo is ready to go. He'll go head-to-head, face-to-face with Embiid.
Okay, I don't appreciate that. And Wilbon jumping all in there with that big smile on his face, just looking to dig at me. I get it. I understand it. Last but not least, I think this is the most important point to be made. Joel Embiid is also sending the message. I am no Ben Simmons. I mean, after all, if this were Ben Simmons, it might be an excuse to miss the 2022-23 season. Okay? That's what might have happened if this were Ben Simmons. But Joel Embiid said, look, my services are needed. A championship is on the line. Our playoff aspirations are on the line. This is my opportunity to do something. I applaud him for even trying. That's what this is about, baby.
We will see what he's able to go out there and do.
By the way, quick point to Jalen's, a footnote to Jalen's point.